Yo, get this name out my mouth. What's good? Give you guys a minute to join the live. I know that the algorithm ain't really my friend, but somebody gonna show up, right? Anyway, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're at in the world. It is Friday, August 18th. Yeah, August 18th, 2023. And I am on my way to the crib in South Carolina, of course, coming from Georgia. And I'm going to spend the weekend with the fam bam. So, as always, I enjoy that. Tonight, me and my wife are going to go out to eat. Well, she's going to eat. My eating window closed about an hour and a half ago. I really don't eat past 4 o'clock. You know what I mean? But anyway, I will enjoy just me. Yep. The weather is 91 degrees and got partly cloudy skies. The sky looks pretty blue. You know what I'm saying? Not something I'm used to seeing. Well, I'm used to seeing it here in the southeast, but definitely not in California did I see this too much. But this is commonplace here, you know what I'm saying? So anyway, yes, indeed. From the title, you guys know I want to get into Larry Elder, and I want to talk about some of his talking points whenever he goes out and gets on his soapbox and spews all these statistics that are really at this point irrelevant. I want to talk about that because recently he was on the Breakfast Club, and he started spewing certain talking points, spewing certain statistics that have little to no context. And most importantly to me, though, is something that he did not talk about very much, but that he kind of touched on a little bit. But when he did talk about it, some young woman came and kind of expounded on that, but not really into the degree that I feel could have been done. So, and I'm going to get into that, and that's in particular talking about the 1960s, the statistics versus of now, or not really now, right? The statistics he's put out there that really just pertained to, less recent times, right? And then also keep in mind that when people pull these stats out of their ass, right? These statistics, the 14% and 50, the 1450 statistic, right? 14% of the population, 50% of the crime. That's complete and utter bullshit. And not only that, but we have to understand where the FBI is getting these statistics from. They have to get the data from individual police departments all across the country, right? They have to compile the data, they have to go through it, and God knows how thorough they are. God knows if these particular police departments and sheriff stations and whatever are giving him the most accurate, giving the FBI the most accurate, information possible. And I question that, right? When you compile so much information from so many different organizations across the country, I can't really, that really doesn't hold too much water for me in particular. And that's me. Y'all can believe what you want. You know what I'm saying? It's like metadata, but without any type of real parameters, right? You're just getting this information, right? And keep in mind that a lot of crime does not get solved, and we have to also ask the question: are these statistics and data based on actual convictions, right? There are a lot of variables that I'm concerned about, in regards to this data that the FBI gets, right? But nonetheless, you know, it's complete and utter bullshit. We don't really know what the black population is in the United States because a lot of people lie on the census data. They lie. They lie to the Census Bureau. You know, a lot of people, a lot of black people believe that census data is being used for nefarious purposes, and you know, I would not disagree with that. You know, I don't know what they're using it for, and they talk about how, well, it has to do with serving the needs of the people. You know, see, this is the problem. If you're going to be this government, right, that rules over everybody, you know, that extracts wealth from everybody, extorts people, and all this other shit, and you want to say, oh well, we need to know exactly how we need to serve particular areas in across the country. If you really want to do that, you wouldn't be concerned about what race they are, right? You want to be concerned about the economic status, right? What's the economic status? Like, what is it? Is this area below the poverty line, above the poverty line? Is it a more affluent area? That's all you need to know, really. You don't need to know the race of the motherfucker, right? You don't need to know, because, you know, we just serve the needs of the people, period. If that's your charge, if that's what you're supposed to do, if that's what you call yourself extracting wealth from us and taxes from us to do, then it should not matter what race they are. You should equally serve the people. If they're impoverished, serve them. Doesn't matter if they're white, black, Hispanic, buffalo, manatee, it doesn't matter, right? If you call yourself serving the needs of the people, which they really don't, right? They rather, not of the people of the United States, they rather serve the needs of the people that are winning big on these contracts in places like Ukraine, right? Not the Ukrainians, not the Ukraine people, but the Ukrainian government and all the whoever else they're serving, right? Whatever they got going on there, every time we turn around, they're giving this $10 million to Ukraine, $20 million. I lost count of how much money they gave to Ukraine, but anyway, nonetheless, this data and these statistics that people like Larry Elder spits, you know, Candace Owen, especially motherfucking Ben Shapiro with his bitch ass, you know, I have no respect, because they have been spitting this same data for the last 5-10 years, and it's data that is old as, I mean, listen, it's not real, okay? It's not real data. They didn't collect this data themselves. All they did was they go to the FBI website and they say who committed the most crimes in this year and that year and this year and that year, and that's what they go by. It's like, and that's where they need, that's compromise. And there's not. What about data from independent sources, right? Outside of the government, outside of the FBI, there's plenty of independent data. And then another thing that pisses me off is this whole fatherless household shit. That's not really a thing anymore. It's not really a thing anymore. Not in excess. And it's not just black people, right? White folks and black folks and other races have similar fatherless home percentages. You know what I'm saying? But that's not what they want you to think. They want you to think that, oh, the father's not there if they're not married to the mother or whatever. But that's not the case. You're conflating marriageless households with fatherless households. It's not the same shit. They both can exist in the same space at the same time. You can be married, you can be with a woman in the same household and have children together and never get married. And if you look at it, you know, they'll see, oh, well, this child was born of an unwed family. And they'll take that and they say, oh, well, that's a fatherless home. That's bullshit. Okay? Again, no one really knows, right? No one really knows the population of the black population. No one really knows how many fatherless homes exist in the black community. They're just guessing, and they're looking at movies and First 48 and all this shit, all these different things that paint a picture of black folks in a negative light, right? I mean, let's be real about this. Let's be real about it. But you can't tell that to these people because they're going to hang their hat on this FBI data, even though they'll tell you, oh, they don't. If you ask them, will that leave out the context of black crime, right? The so-called black on black crime. By the way, white people commit the same percentage of crime upon each other as black people and Hispanics. It's about proximity. It's socioeconomic status of the area. That's what it's based on. It's not based on race. It's not about black culture or white culture. No, it's about a culture of poverty. Okay, a culture of poverty and desperation. That's what that's about. When people are desperate and they're impoverished and they feel like they don't have any other means to live, and they got whatever the case may be, yeah, there's going to be some criminal element in those areas. But anyway, yeah, so when you look at it, it's all bullshit, okay? It's all bullshit. And when Larry Elder asks questions like, what's the most systemic racist thinking? You know what I'm saying? And I think Charlamagne the God said the prison mass incarceration, right? And that's when he goes off into the crime, or this person commit, or black people commit this much crime, that much crime, this much crime. It's bullshit, right? Because we have to understand how corrupt the system is in the first place. And there's plenty of evidence of that, right? If you look at, and I've highlighted this plenty of times before, if you look at certain cases in which, black people are being sold up the river for profit for these private prisons, it's crazy, right? This one lab tech, she got caught falsifying the drug test of 2,000 people that got them jailed, and a judge, he did similar shit. Like he'll give black people harsher sentences for the same crime as white people. Let's also get into that. How, if you look at it across the board, when white people commit the same crimes, they don't get the same sentences, or they don't get the same level of conviction, right? Right? They'll get charged or convicted of a lesser crime, right? And they'll get less of a sentence. They get an easier sentence. That's just how it is. That's just how it works across the board. You know what I'm saying? And you can call that what you want. You know what I'm saying? You can say, oh, that's not systemic rape, whatever you want to say. But to me, that's evidence of that. And let's look at the rate. Who gets exonerated the most? Of all exonerees, at least as of a few years ago, what percentage of exonerees are black? 70%. 70% of exonerees are black. And that means that they have been falsely imprisoned, falsely convicted, falsely charged, all these things. They, for whatever circumstance, either mistaken identity, they have been set up or, framed, you know what I'm saying? Whatever the case may be. Or the cops, they needed to arrest somebody and convict somebody, so they just picked a random black man off the street. You know what I'm saying? Or false accusations from false victims. These things happen. And they happen mostly to black people. That's a fact. This has been going on. All right? So when they come at you with these statistics of 1450 and motherless households and this, that, and the third, that's a whole nother story in regards to single mothers. Single mothers are different. When you have single parent households where the child is being raised by the mother, that has its own set of problems, right? That can be a problem because they don't have that male, they don't have that man energy, that man structure to keep them from straying off the right path, right? And that's just part of the game. That's part of the game. And but a lot more fathers are in the lives of their children than they would have you to believe. Okay, than they would have you to believe. When you allow the father to be in that child's life, whether you're with him or not, that child will have a better chance of success. Point blank and period. Point blank and period. And unfortunately, well, I don't know if I would say unfortunately, but in all honesty, single fathers have better success raising their children than single mothers. That's how it is. That's how this is what it is. But anyway, getting off of that, when you look at what Larry Elder said, so he's talking about all these statistics, particularly when it comes to family, right? The black family, single mother this, single mother that, fatherless households, and all that stuff. He said something about the 60s. In the 60s, we had a much higher percentage of married households. Well, this will be my question. Well, what was going on in the 60s? What was going on in the 60s? What was going on in the 60s that the last 200 years culminated to? What happened during the 60s? What was the civil rights movement, right? We were at the peak of the civil rights movement. No, not Jim Crow. Jim Crow was not in the 60s. I think Jim Crow ended. Well, yeah, Jim Crow, yeah, but it ended, before that, right? But what I'm talking about, Jim Crow was a problem in and of itself. That's a whole nother. See, I'm not even talking about Jim Crow right now. That's a whole nother story that we can go back to. But what happened during the 60s? Particularly what happened during the 60s and what happened after that? What happened from the 60s on? We had the civil rights movement, right? We had civil rights leaders that were bringing people together, bringing black folks together, that were helping create solidarity and unity among black people as a whole. Because if you look at it, you had Martin Luther King, you had Malcolm X, right? Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, they had opposing views on how to keep their people free, right? Martin Luther King he was all into integration, right? He was all ending segregation up to a certain point. Malcolm X was about empowering his own people independent of white folks. Right? Martin Luther King wanted, he wanted equal resources that the white folks were getting. You know what I'm saying? Because, we had the whole separate but equal thing, right? That was part of Jim Crow. That was part of other things. But he wanted, because with segregation, whatever the black people had access to was less and much more horrible repair and much more horrible than what white folks had access to, including water fountains, including a lot of different things. So Martin Luther King wanted, and this is what he wanted more than to end segregation. He wanted black folks to have the same amount of resources, right? He wanted everybody to have the same. We deserve as much resources as white folks. You know what I'm saying? And in some instances, I guess he felt like ending segregation would basically force that, right? Because, okay, we're going to go to the same schools, we're going to have access to the same restaurants, we're going to be able to get on the same buses, whatever the case may be. So then we would have to have the same resources of white folks, right? But at some point, he came to understand, right, almost right before he died, that he was integrating his people into a burning building. Basically, he was like, you know what I'm saying? But by the time he realized that, and he got his top, you know, he got assassinated. Once he realized, yo, I made a mistake working so hard to end segregation, right? And this is something that, because, you know, at some point Malcolm X and Martin Luther King had a meeting, and they had a discussion just to see what other people, what each other's points of view were. And Martin Luther King had something of an awakening during that meeting. He's like, you know what? Now that I look at it, maybe it is a mistake to try to force the ending of segregation. Maybe we should be just looking out for ourselves and building our own communities and all this, that, and third. Not because we hate white folks, but because white folks hated us. They didn't want us. They didn't want us around them or their children. So why are we so dead set on being a part of them? Why are we so dead set on integrating and assimilating with them? Why don't we just do our own fucking thing, right? I mean, that's real shit, and that's how I look. That's how I look at it now to this day. If there's a group of people and they ain't doing anything, and you know, they acting like they don't want me to be a part of their group or whatever, I do my own fucking thing. You know what I'm saying? And I'm okay with that. I don't need to be all up in everybody else shit. I first ensure that I have built enough and can build enough for me to stand on my own 2 feet, for me and my family, and anybody that's rocking with me. We can do our own fucking thing. We don't need all these other people, right? And so that is what was going on in the 60s, right? It was culminating. It was like, okay, maybe we shouldn't end segregation. Maybe we do need our own thing, do our own thing. Maybe we do need to build another Black Wall Street. Maybe we do need to build another Rosewood. Maybe we do need to do this, do that. Have our own fire department. Have our own hospitals. Have our own theaters. Have this, have that. And we had that. And we built that before. And we had success. But what happened? The motherfuckers didn't like it, right? They hated it. They said, oh, okay, we can't have these motherfuckers being thriving and successful without us. And what did they do? They went in and destroyed the shit. But anyway, what happens in the 60s? Martin Luther King gets assassinated. Malcolm X gets assassinated. You know what I'm saying? JFK, who I would argue he was probably, you know, see, he had a bigger fish to fry, right? Essentially, because what he was trying to do was expose the fact that, look, we got bigger things at play here. It's the president don't run shit. You know, we got other forces. We got other forces to contend with. We have other forces that are trying to control us, that are trying to do this, trying to do this, trying to do that, that really have a grip on this country. That's why he got assassinated. Once these people that are such high value, of high status, like a Martin Luther King and JFK, a Malcolm X, once they have certain realizations, they get murked, right? And it really, they didn't have a problem with Malcolm X, you know, having black people go up against the police. They didn't really, what they had a problem with, right, was, what they had a problem with was the fact that he was pushing independent thought and independent, you know what I'm saying? He was like, okay, these establishments are a problem, right? These and the establishment and a leader, they want us to clash in this regard, but I'm seeing things differently, right? And you know, there were issues with that he had with Elijah Muhammad and the little kids and the teenage girls and all that other shit. So, and I have a theory about that I ain't gonna get into in regards to the Nation of Islam being in cahoots with the U.S. government. I think that's what got him murked, right? Realizing that, yo, there's some funky shit going on with the Nation of Islam and the United States government, which is why I believe to this day Farrakhan can keep doing what he's doing, talking all that shit, and won't nobody touch him. But that's another story. So, what else did you have going on? So you had that. You had our leaders being murked, right? All that other shit. What does this do? You know, and this is the unfortunate thing about raising individuals up so high that everybody looks to them to do shit, to get shit done, when everybody should be able to independently operate without that type of person just being up there and making all these decisions and doing all this, that, third, right? And a true leader is going to encourage independence of thought, independence of movement, independence of self. Like, I'm not trying to control you, but you know, what I'm out here doing is I'm putting it out there, and what I'm here to do is spread the message. That's really what a leader like Malcolm X and Martin Luther King should have done. And you know, they did great things, but spread the message of freedom, spread the message of breaking the bonds, breaking the chains. That's what you should be doing. And encouraging everybody in your organization, or that's part of your group, to be able to operate and function without you. Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, both hella orators, you know what I'm saying? They're both intelligent, and they both had this soul about them that moved people. But, you know, you have to be able to breathe that life into other people and have them operate as in much smaller cells, so they can pick up the pieces and move on from there. You know what I'm saying? If somebody kills our leader, you know what I'm saying, assassinates our leader, we should be able to pick up the pieces and keep it pushing and keep it moving, right? And that brings me to the biggest problem of the 60s. What else happened? Well, let's not forget the Black Panthers, right? Yeah, the Black Panthers. They were doing their own thing, making shit happen. You know what I'm saying? They were patrolling their own neighborhoods, keeping their own neighborhood safe. Safe from drug dealers, safe from criminals, and safe from the biggest criminal organization in the country, the Po-Po. Yes, they were. They were keeping neighborhoods safe from corrupt police that were going around beating people, all this other shit, trying to plant evidence and doing what they was doing. They were able to keep, listen, they had the right to keep and bear arms. And they were in their communities helping people. They weren't just, you know, walking around with guns and all that other shit, intimidating people. No, they served their community. That is what you call community policing. They didn't need no motherfucking police in their neighborhoods. They'd not. All they needed was to police themselves. And it worked because there were small little factions in different parts of the country, and they did their thing. I'm telling you, look it up. They protected their neighborhood from corrupt po-po. Okay? And why do you think the Mo for that came about? You know what I'm talking about? The California law that ended open carry. That was because of the Black Panthers. They got tired of them Negroes walking around protecting their own shit. Okay? Thank you, Reagan. Thank you, NRA. Thank you, Reagan. Thank you, NRA. But let's move on from there. Black Panthers were doing the thug thizzle. Oh, let me link hella building 22. My the mouse trap was good. Can't really read y'all. Can't really read the chat right now, man. But that's okay. I think Fred Hampton. Yeah, Fred Hampton in Chicago. What happened They were doing the thing. They were doing their thing, man. They were educating the children. They were teaching. Listen, let me tell you something. The Black Panthers, that is a great example of community policing where you don't need the po-po. You don't need the state police. You don't need the county police. You don't need the city police. You didn't need none of that. Keep them motherfuckers on the outskirts. But when you come through my neighborhood, and we got shit handled, partner. And they did. They were successful. They were successful. They helped communities. They kept communities together. They helped communities thrive. Right? And that's what every community needs. If you want to have a successful community, you have to have security. You have to have infrastructure. You have to have medical. You have to have emergency services for whatever may arise. Okay? You have to have skilled people, skilled labor, skilled security. You have to have those things to have a successful community. We had those things. We had those things. And we had, you know, in the Black Panther era, we didn't necessarily have our own hospitals and shit anymore because, you know, of course they destroy. Anytime we had to try to do our own shit beyond just owning some houses and owning some houses in the neighborhood and maybe some barber shops, you know, little shit like that. Yeah, they'll let us have that. But no, we can't have no hospitals. You know what I'm saying? No. They wouldn't let it go down. Anyway, what happened to the Black Panthers? What happened to the Black Panthers? Were they allowed to rock? No, they was not. They were not allowed to rock. They were not allowed to continue to keep their neighborhoods thriving. Keep it free of drugs. Keep it free of criminals. Keep it free of R words and robbers. You know what I'm saying? Rapists. Chomos. All those elements. They were successful. But no, they couldn't have that. No. Not the not the system. Absolutely not. So what happened? What did they create? COINTELPRO. COINTELPRO was the thing that actually destroyed the black community, put it in disarray, and just destroyed everything. And then why? How did that come about? Well, how were they able to do that when we had the Black Panthers that were doing it? Well, they used COINTELPRO against the Black Panthers. But here's the problem. The Black Panthers wasn't doing shit illegal, right? They weren't doing anything illegal. You talking about even protecting people in their community from abusive popo, right? They had the right to keep bear arms. They had the right to self-defense. They had the right, even against police. Yes. So they used COINTELPRO to do what? They used COINTELPRO to infiltrate the Black Panther Party, right? They used COINTELPRO, and think about it. All the cities where it's just horrible, and you have this horrible black on black, Chicago, Los Angeles, Oakland, and all these different, look it up. Look up where most of these Black Panther chapters were. They were in all these cities that they love to use these statistics for. All right. So what happened? COINTELPRO, they send some Negroes in to infiltrate. They send Negroes in to infiltrate to see if they can find some dirt, right? Well, guess what? When they couldn't find any real dirt, I mean, they weren't, you know, they weren't like committing literal crimes. No. Well, what can we do? What can we do about this? What can we do? Well, how about we start making them commit crimes? Yes. They used infiltrators, undercover clown as not, and it wasn't just black people that infiltrated. White folks started infiltrating an organization because the Black Panthers, they were like, okay, well, if you down with the cause, well, I guess we can let you rock with us. But what happened? Well, they basically entrapped the Black Panthers. Okay? They entrapped them. What does that mean? That means that you set people up to commit a crime yourself. Let's say you're part of a police department. Let's say you're part of a law enforcement agency. You are undercover, and you basically put them in the position, you compromise them and put them in the position to where they had to commit a crime. They had to commit a crime, and they get caught for it. That's what they did. That's the whole point of COINTELPRO. That was the whole point behind COINTELPRO. Well, but and they, of course, did they really need that? No, because they were able to still beat people and use hoses and stuff like that. But again, like I said, the Black Panthers came through and kind of nixed all that shit, right? They kind of put an end to all that shit, right? Along with Malcolm X and his crew, right? You know, they kind of, you know, they did what they could. You know what I'm saying? To the fullest extent that they could without breaking the law and all that other shit. Did they still get arrested? Did they still get hemmed up and jammed up? Absolutely. But could they hold them? No, they had to let them go because there wasn't no real motherfucking crime. Did they try to plant evidence? Of course they did. And that's what they started doing to the fullest extent with COINTELPRO. So what happened from there? Because I know y'all wonder, what they got to do with what Larry Elder said? Well, I'm about to get into that. Just walk with me. I'm 22 Ronin. He's an OG. He know what I'm talking about. 22 Ronin OG. He know what I'm talking about. He from you know what I'm saying? He know what I'm talking about. So what happens from there? COINTELPRO comes in, do some infiltration, set some, you know, commit some entrapment. You know what I'm saying? Because entrapment is actually against the law for law enforcement, right? They're not supposed to entrap people. You know what I'm saying? But they do it anyway, right? But hey, it is what it is. So entrapping. And what else did they do? What? See, this is the biggest thing here. The biggest catalyst of the destruction of the black community, right? They created, using this clown, I've got his real name, they call him Karenga, Maoli Karenga, some shit. The dude that invented, what they call that thing during Christmas? Oh, fuck. What's that? Kwanzaa. The dude that invented Kwanzaa. The dude that, Judas and the Black Messiah, the perfect example. But anyway, I never saw that movie because I know I would get pissed off. I decided to never watch that movie in my life because I don't really want to get pissed off, because Fred Hampton, that was my guy, man. Of course, not my guy literally. I mean, he died well before I was born. But I knew his son, Fred Hampton Jr. That was my dad. Fred Hampton Jr. looked just like him too. I met Fred Hampton Jr. at an event. Well, not an event, but a little kind of a retreat to Native American land. But that's another story. You know, and he didn't fuck with the new Black Panther Party, by the way. And, you know, they got the new Black Panther Party. They wasn't really rocking like that. But anyway, Fred Hampton kind of had his own thing going on. And see, that's another problem that we have today. But anyway, that's another story. So what happens? Maoli Karenga, the dude that invented Kwanzaa. Well, what did he do? What did he do before that? He started the US organization. I forgot what it's called. The US. You use something with a U and an S. The US organ. I forgot what the acronym stood for, but the US organization. Well, Maoli Karenga was an FBI asset. Okay, he was an FBI asset who created the US organization essentially to oppose the Black Panther Party, to start shit with them, to create. He created beef. Him and his organization created beef with the Black Panther Party on the behalf of the United States government, on the behalf of the FBI. There's a lot of detail and nuance into that, but basically, they started that shit. They started beef. Okay, they went after, you know, some shit got started. Boom, Bumpy Carter got knocked off. Not Bumpy Carter, Bunchy Carter. My bad. Forgive me with some of these names, okay? Bunchy Carter. I mean, people died. Okay, Black Panthers died. I think a couple people from us they just created beef with each other, right? On the behalf of the United States government. These are facts. You can look it up. Just do the research. Don't take my word for it, okay? Don't take my word. Don't just take what I say for face value. Go do the research, okay? Look it up. Look it up. And then you had the same thing going on in Chicago, Oakland, this, that, all these different. So what happens is they were able to declare essentially the Black Panther Party as a terrorist organization. You know what I'm saying? Basically, and they were eventually disbanded. They were disbanded. But what happened to the remnants? Excuse me. What happened to the remnants of that? Well, it didn't end with the Black Panther Party being disbanded. No. The government wasn't done there. They had to keep doing shit. Yeah, they had to keep beef going between black and black. They could, because before that, yes, we had some black on black crime, just like every community has their color on color crime, right? But the government wanted us to intensify that shit. So they fueled all this shit. They fueled the beef between the US organization and the Black Panther Party, right? And the remnants of the Black Panther Party came what? Particularly in Los Angeles. What stemmed from that? What was the outgrowth? What rose from the ashes of the Black Panther Party? The Cribs, okay? CRIBS, okay? The Cribs. You know what I'm saying? And they were essentially doing the same shit the Black Panther Party would, but they couldn't do it to the extent of the Black Panther Party. Why? Because of the motherfucking Mulford Act. Am I saying the right thing? Is that the Mulford Act, right? The act, the law where they banned open carry in the state of California. They couldn't do that. They couldn't do that legally. They couldn't do it. No, not the Cribs. They couldn't do it. See, it was a smooth setup. Right? And it really essentially started with the Mulford Act, because at some point, the Black Panther Party, they couldn't open carry anymore. That really stifled them. That really crippled. You understand what I'm saying? And why did Reagan and them do that? Not just in Reagan's handlers, by the way. Why did they do that? Not just because they were scared of an armed Negro. No. They were used to armed Negroes, right? They had armed Negroes since goddamn a little bit after sharecropping, whatever. They had armed Negroes, but not, you know, it wasn't just because they were scared of the armed Negro. It was also because they wanted to be able to prevent those armed Negroes from protecting themselves. They wanted to make them defenseless, and it worked. So when the Cribs came about, well, they couldn't open carry. They wasn't able to carry guns like that and all that other shit. Not like the motherfucking Black Panthers were pre-Mulford Act. But they did it anyway, right? They did it anyway, and you know, whatever the case may be, and it became a real problem, right? Because what else did the government do? What did the shit never stops, right? Well, the Cribs were there, and then guess who came about? Guess who sprung out of nowhere? The Bloods. The Bloods came. Oh, who got the Bloods started? I don't fucking know. Maybe the fucking, who knows? Who knows? That's a little bit tricky how the Bloods came about. But they did. They came and they started beefing with the Cribs. And eventually it just got disorganized, and it became Crips. And then the first set of Crips started slinging heroin. How convenient.
Say a command.
want to say command. So the Crips started doing what? They started slinging heroin. They started slinging heroin for drug organizations, right? Drug organizations that were getting what from who? Right? After we didn't already they killed our leaders, right? In multiple organizations, including the Nation of Islam, Martin Luther King's thing, the Black Panther Party, the Cribs, and then here comes the Crips. Here comes the Bloods. They start slinging dope. They started fighting over territory and all this other shit. And then what happened? Then what happened? Don't forget. Oh, so now we talking about the 60s and 70s now. We talking about the 60s and 70s. We're talking about heroin, right? Maybe a little coke if you had a little bread, right? Then what happened? They started flying all the coke in. Who flew all the coke in? Who flew all the coke in? The government brought the coke in, right? They brought the coke in. White CIA goddamn agents and all this, that, and the third. Started pushing, started handing off to black dudes to do all that and slang it and all that shit. But what did they want? They wanted to do what? Because it was becoming a problem. They had to act like they weren't involved in bringing drugs into their own country to push into black communities. Because they were doing it with heroin. But that became a problem because of the Vietnam War. You understand what I'm saying? So what did they have to do? They had to go to different avenues. They could, South America, where the cocoa is. And then they had to make it stretch. They had to make it, you know what I'm saying? And then crack came about. All of this was facilitated and orchestrated by the United States government. Absolutely. And there you have it. And then let's go. That's the 80s, right? The rise of gangs, the crack era started. What happened in the motherfucking 90s? The 94 Crime Act by your boy Joe Biden. Joe Biden came through, slapped down the goddamn 94 crime bill, and the rest is history, my friends. So when Charlemagne the God is talking about mass incarceration, that's what he's talking about. Mandatory sentences for little pieces of weed and little pieces of dope. It's pretty cut and dry. And this is why people like Larry Elder, they will, we were doing this. We had whole ass families, and 97% of the families were together, and up until the 1960s, and then he just glossed right over that. We're gonna gloss right over that. What happened during the 60s? What happened during the 60s? That's what happened. There's a reason he went back to the 60s, because he knew that was where the turning point was. There was a turning point. Orchestrated by whom? Orchestrated by whom? Orchestrated by the United States government against black people. COINTELPRO was created because black people were standing up for their own communities, protecting their own communities, to keep drugs out, to keep R words out, to keep murderers out, all this other shit. You talking about strong black men rolling through your neighborhood, armed up, ready to defend you, ready to defend your children, all that other shit. Ready to take care of old people, ready to feed the homeless or feed the needy. All these things they were doing. The crucial element to that was the fact that they could keep and bear arms. openly and freely in a state like California, in a state like Illinois, and all these other places. You know, black people can't have nice things, because when we do, they send COINTELPRO agents. They send COINTELPRO agents. They create, you know, oh shit. They use other black people to create entire organizations to oppose the Black Panthers, to, you know, start shit and get them violent and entrap them. I mean, come on, man. Oh, well, 60 years ago. Oh, well, so? 60 years is nothing. 60 years after, 60 years ago. What, after 200-300 years of slavery, a half a century to a whole century of goddamn Jim Crow? Like, what, how are we supposed to come out smelling like roses? Like, does that happen by osmosis, or does it take time? Does it take time after all that time? Just like, you know, you've been obese for 10 years. What do you think? You're 300, 400 pounds overweight, right? 300, 400 pounds overweight. Oh, you decide you wanted to get healthy. You want to lose some weight. But you're 300, 400 pounds overweight, and it took you 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years to get 500 pounds overweight. You think you 6 years? Oh, no, wait, what's the equivalent? 50 years or 60 years versus 400 years, right? What's the percentage? I don't even want to go into all that right now. So let's say it took you 4, 5, or 6 years to become 300, 400 pounds overweight, right? So are you supposed to lose 400, 500 pounds, 300, 400, 500 pounds in a healthy way in what, a year, right? A little bit over half a decade versus, a little over half a century versus 4 centuries, right? What in the world are we, what do you want us to do? You want 60 years, that was 60 years ago. That was, 60 years ago. After, you know what I'm saying? A lot happened before those 60 years started. And shit continues to happen. Right? You think, systemic racism, if you acknowledge systemic racism back in the 60s and before, you think it just disappeared in the 70s? You think they were like, oh, you know, I want to give up my systemic racism. I'm going to give it up right as soon as 1970 starts. We're going to start with the non-racism stuff. Yeah, because I'm done with that. You know, I didn't see any benefit from it at all. You know, let's end systemic racism in the 70s, just automatically. Let's stop right here. No, it don't work like that. No, it don't work like that. You're talking about this. It's the same power structure that exists today. The Constitution is over 200 years old. It's the longest operating constitution of any other country in the world. And certain things have happened based on those 200 years that the Constitution existed, right? Just like, you just can't turn it off. You can't just destroy what the Constitution has built overnight. No, that shit takes time. It takes planning. It takes strategy. It takes come-togetherness, right? This system that was built around the Constitution, that they use the Constitution whenever they feel like it. You know, whenever the wind changes, they decide to, you know, say fuck the Constitution, and at a certain time they use it to continue to control. So listen, it's a living document, right? The Constitution is a living document that they can interpret any way they want, because guess why? They're in power, right? They have the control. They control all 3 branches. They go to the judicial branch, the legislative branch, and the executive branch. They tell you, there's separation of power and all this other shit. No, it's not separation of power. Because who appoints the judges that are supposed to interpret the laws? Who confirms the executives, right? Okay, so listen, how does this whole thing work, right? In order to have a president, the highest executive in the land, right, you need electoral votes. How do those come about? Well, you have a certain amount of districts or whatever in your state, and based on that amount of delegates or whatever, electors, you have a certain amount of you know how it works, right? And at the end of the day, it has to do with what? It has to do with politicians that are operating within that state. It's all bullshit. There's no separation of powers at all. But we're to believe that after 1960, when we ended in the segregation, we did this, we did that. We got the 64 or whatever year that was with the Civil Rights Act. We got the Civil Rights Act. We got the other Civil Rights Act bill, or whatever. We got all these things. All these things happened for us. But all of a sudden, okay, right after that, shit just stops. Oh yeah, let's stop the racism. Let's stop. We're just going to leave it to the rednecks to be racist now. We're going to leave it to the rednecks, and they're going to drive around in trucks with what they call them things, Confederate flags, and we're no longer going to be racist. We're going to leave that to the rednecks in the trucks. Yeah, let's do that. What the fuck is you? What are y'all thinking? Racism just stopped. Everything just got better for black folks. Oh no, here's the boot. Here's the bootstrap that you can pull yourself up by now. No, it don't work like that, man. Where y'all been at, man? Where have y'all been? What do y'all think this is, man? All of a sudden, everything's supposed to be all right. Have a Coke and a smile, motherfucker. There's no more systemic racism. What? Oh, well, what about all those exceptional Negroes that we got? What about all those people? What about all the successful Negroes that we got out here? What about them? And it's there's no specific law that goes against black people. There's no specific law that's your criteria for systemic racism existing. Is you have to see the actual law, an actual law that says we shall discriminate against Negroes and hang them from trees. What are you looking for? Huh? And how stupid do you think people are, man? That's the dumbest talking point, by the way. Oh, there's no specific law against black people. Oh, that's how it's supposed to work? Like, get the fuck out of here with that shit, man. Like, really? Like, what are we? We don't know better. We ain't got no common sense. We're not adults. We can't have real conversations. We have to pander so hard that we're saying the same shit over and over again. Rote repetition, just saying the same shit every time we go and we have these talks and you commit all the crime. You commit all the crime. 14%. You commit all the crime. 14%. Oh, you killed each other. Oh, look at Chicago. What about Chicago? Do you not have any depth of thought? Like, what? Do you not have any critical thinking skills, or are you just intellectually dishonest at this point? Like, real shit. That's what I think it is. They're just intellectually dishonest. They know the fuck that they got life fucked up in this motherfucker, right? They got life fucked up. It's crazy. It's crazy. It is wild to me, right? It's wild. And when you see people like Brandon Tatum talking about, oh, when I see white people and then they see black people, when I see white people see black people acting a fool, I go to them, I say, I'm a good Negro. Oh, yes, sir. Oh, I ain't like them. I ain't like them Negroes. I'm a good Negro. You know what I'm saying? I'm married to me as a white woman, and I'm a good Negro. I don't act like that. Oh, don't look at my tattoos. It's just I'm a good Negro now. You know, I hate black culture. Oh, that's wrong with black people, and I'm done with black. Like all these stupid. Like you're black, bro. You're black, Brandon Tatum. You done with you? You done with yourself? Is that what we're doing here? Pure ignorance, pure stupidity, pure motherfucking intellectual dishonesty, right? All rolled into one. You can't tell me there's no systemic racism. No. You can't tell me that. You can't show me, you know what I'm saying? And by the way, you can't prove a negative. You can't prove there isn't something, because there isn't something, right? You can't prove that something doesn't exist, but you can prove something does exist, and you can just ignore it. The person that wants to prove a negative, all you can do is ignore the fucking evidence that is there. But you can't prove that something doesn't exist. All you can do is say that it doesn't. That's all you can say. You can ignore the facts, you can ignore the nuance, you can ignore the context, you can ignore the history, you can ignore a chain of events. See, people don't want to look at the chain of events. One thing leads to another. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. And one action can have a series of actions that ripple. As a matter of fact, every action causes an infinite amount of actions. That's how the shit works. That's how string theory works. One action creates an infinite amount of other actions. Every individual, everything, every time somebody does something, it creates an opposite reaction that then causes another reaction, that causes another reaction, and another reaction. It's just infinite. It doesn't stop. And so, and also, energy cannot be destroyed or created. It just transforms or moves from one form to another. It gets absorbed into something, and something else puts it out. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. So the energy that existed with systemic racism, it did not just end. It was not destroyed. It just transformed into something else. It was derived from something, right? Point blank and period. So this idea that, oh, well, that was 60 years ago. Oh, ain't no more systemic racism. That is the dumbest thing to ever, like, that's your argument. That's not even a real argument. Oh, there's no such thing as systemic racism. Because if you just hang on that, every example that we give you of systemic racism, you're just going to dismiss it. You know what I'm saying? You're going to dismiss it. And that's what these people do constantly. And they deflect, and they chase, and they attack straw men and all these other things. They don't want to focus on the main point of this whole situation. Systemic racism still exists. They just had to change the way they operated it, because there's always going to be uprisings and rebellions, and you want to limit that. All right? You want to limit that. You want to diminish that. Every time you have an uprising, you have to change your tyrannical structure to a degree. Not too much of a degree, because you still want to be a tyrant. You still want to be in control. You still want to stifle people. You still want to hold people down. So you want to continue the thing. You just can't keep it going the way that it's going, because too many people are going to rise up and they're going to rebel, right? So you change this law, you change that law. You know what I'm saying? You stamp it back a little bit. You create atmosphere where you don't have to do too much yourself in order to bring about the destruction of a group of people, right? Like destroying the Black Panthers and being instrumental in the creation of the Crips and the Bloods, bringing drugs and all that, bringing about the crack era. You do things like that, and then you create the '94 crime bill to lock these people up, right? To get them off the streets, to break up families. That's what you do. You don't sit up here and continue to say, oh, well, black people can't hang out past midnight. Oh, you got to go to the back of the bus. Oh, you got to, you got to drink out the dirty water fountain. Oh, yeah, you still got to, you can't eat at this restaurant. You can't go to this ice cream parlor because we're going to pour ice cream on your head and beat your ass. You can't do that no more. No, because there's only so much that people can take before they rise up. And as much as they probably fear or whatever feelings they have toward black people, whatever causes them to want to give them this level of treatment, there's something going on there. I can't really pinpoint it. Maybe it's fear of being inferior. Maybe it's something. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's fear of black success. Maybe, but they still need us to a degree. They still need us because we consume. We're huge consumers. You know what I'm saying? And let's face it. Black culture is dope culture. You understand what I'm saying? We make shit happen. Like we bring about a swag that they envy. It's real shit. This is, you know what I'm saying? That's just real shit. Black people got a swag that brings life to the motherfucking world. You understand what I'm saying? And they like having that. They want to have that. They like being entertained and whatever value we bring. Well, that's diminishing now because now they got the immigrants. But you know what I'm saying? They have to keep us subservient, so they changed it. Just like when they ended slavery, right? They ended slavery, but racism didn't just disappear with the ending of slavery. No. What did they bring about? They brought about sharecropping. Then they brought about Jim Crow and segregation. They had to change it. They had to level down the level of black oppression so that black people be like, okay, I appreciate you in slavery. Oh, okay, thank you for finally paying me what I'm owed for the sharecropping situation. No, thank you for ending segregation. Now I can go to school with white folks. Yes, they're gonna do certain shit. It's strategic, right? It's Willie Lynch letter in essence, right? Even though they say the Willie Lynch letter was not, there was no Willie Lynch. That's what they're saying. But the principles of the Willie Lynch letter still apply here. You can't just keep up the slavery thing, because in every civilization where slavery existed, there was always uprisings that just caused too many problems. Too many problems. And so it began with chattel slavery in the United States. You can only do it for so long because at the end of the day, people eventually will want to rise up and break their chains. And they'll obtain freedom to a degree. That's just what it is, man. That's part of the game, shawty. I don't know what to tell you. Now the system of racism has changed. It has transformed. Now it's more about they had to kind of concentrate their focus, right? Because at the end of the day, all they care about control, right? They care about controlling the population. The entire population, not just black people. The entire population, white, black. If you're not part of the elite class, they still want to have that control. They still want to be tyrants. So now they just clumped everybody up in the same shit, except certain things there is a disparity in the level of oppression against black people versus white people and other races. That's just the fact. Everyone's oppressed. Everyone's living under the tyrannical system. It's just some people experience different levels of this oppressive system. Some people have better opportunity to become part of the elite class. That's how it works. At the end of the day, everyone needs to obtain their freedom. Not only free, living under this system. That's what we need to understand, right? So yes, while the systemic racism has become more complex and has transformed into a complexity that most people don't understand, those that understand that also understand that white people are being oppressed and persecuted, Hispanics, whoever else. If you're not part of that elite class, if you're not part of the 13 families, like, or whatever the fuck that shit is, you are a subject. You are a thrall. You are their toy. You are their subjects. Did I say subjects already? Whatever. This is the reality of it. And it's something that we have to come to terms with, because if we don't, they're getting desperate, right? They're getting desperate. And if you they're attacking all kind of people at different angles and different ways. So we have to come to this understanding. At the end of the day, despite all the shit with the systemic racism, everybody is living under systemic oppression. And what's funny is a lot of these people that deny systemic racism understand that the systemic oppression exists, understand that there are certain structures in this government that mean to rule over us and dictate every part of our lives. But they can't even fathom the thought that that same system would have a racist bone in their body. Like, what are we talking about here? What are we talking about? Like, real shit. Where has the common sense gone? And it's people like that, right? Like the B. Tatums and the Larry Elders and the Jesse Lee Petersons that are going to cause more harm than good, right? Cause more harm than good. But anyway, that's all I got for now, y'all. I'm gonna get on ahead, get off this live stream, and yeah, I just wanted to chop it up with y'all about that. Thank you guys for coming through. Please hit that like button on the way out, and just remember, man, like, we have to get to a level where we are independent. We have to be self-sufficient, independent, and not have to rely on the system, right? Now, it's hard to get from under the thumb of the system. It's very difficult. In fact, at times, it'll seem impossible. But it's not impossible. It's not impossible. You just got to be ready to be uncomfortable for a little bit. Because when the system breaks down, and it will, every system does. Every empire falls. When it falls, it's going to be uncomfortable for a little bit. And hopefully, we learn from this and don't make the mistake of allowing another empire to rise up. We can end that cycle. Not allow another empire to rise up and replace the old. That's the key. Much love, like, share, subscribe, and we're going to keep marching forward toward freedom. Peace.